Operations is the key to air power.
Congressman Chip Cravaack, thank you for being with us on Powerline.
Great being here. Great being here.
Congressman, why don't we start by just talking a little bit about your background? You started out in the Navy, I think. Is that right?
Right. In fourth grade, I decided I wanted to be a Navy pilot. And I worked through grade school, high school, and I knew I wanted to go to the Naval Academy. And so I set my sights to go there. I was able to go to the Naval Academy. I pretty much left home when I was 18, joined the Navy, had a fantastic 24-year active and reserve career. I was a Navy pilot. Was stationed in basically South China Sea area out of the Philippines for 3 years. Went through the revolution there with Marcos. And then I went off active, was an instructor pilot down in Pensacola. Went off active duty, went right into the reserves, also became an airline pilot for 17 years with Northwest Airlines.
And in 2010, Congressman, you won what was probably the biggest upset in a big Republican year when you beat Jim Oberstar in Minnesota's 8th District up in northeastern Minnesota. Oberstar had been in Congress since around World War I, I think. How did you pull that off?
36 years he had been in office, and I have to attribute that I had a very good team. We worked very hard together. We had no money, but I had a lot of people that I called just put what's called putting their oar in the water, and everybody just started to row. And it was a ground game. We had no money. We had an old RV that we wrapped, and that was our flagship that would go through the district. It's the second largest district and bigger in 11 states, so we were constantly on the road. If we got enough money that day to fill up the gas tank, it was a good day. And again, it was just a lot of impassioned people that said they had had enough, and they were starting to fight back. And we just put that team together, and that's how we took it across the goal line.
So you're wrapping up your first term in Congress. What are some of the major issues that you've worked on?
We've had some pretty good wins for Congress in general, the 112th Congress. We were able to pass a transportation bill after 10 extensions. And remember, the previous Congress was a Democratic president, Democratic House, and a Democratic Senate. They couldn't pass the transportation, and we did. And one of the main things we did is we passed it without one earmark. The previous transportation bill had over 6,400 earmarks. We passed without one earmark. Within that bill, I was able to insert what's called the Buy American Steel Amendment, which means that all federal projects have to give the first dibs at market rate to American steel. Now, why that's important is it puts our American steel on a level playing field with subsidized steel that comes from China and Brazil. The governments of China and Brazil would love nothing better than to destroy the steelmaking capabilities of the United States. So they subsidize their steel that comes into the United States. We were able to at least allow our steel companies at a market rate to have the first dibs on that. We passed an FAA bill after 26 extensions. So that was a huge point for us. One of the bills I'm personally proud of is the TSA bill that treats our warriors that are coming home with the dignity and respect that they deserve when they're traveling in uniform, with their orders, their ID, and they get the same privileges that somebody with a platinum membership would.
Now, you mentioned steel a moment ago, Congressman. When you talk about steel, you're talking about iron. When you talk about iron, you're talking about mining. And when you talk about northern Minnesota, your district, there's the perennial conflict between jobs in the form of mining and left-wing ideology in the form of environmental extremism.
That's right.
How is that, where are you in that conflict, and how is that playing out currently?
Well, the miners of the 8th District traditionally have always voted the Democrat, with the Democrat Party. But for the first time in quite a long time, miners are beginning to see that the Democratic Party have aligned themselves with the environmentalists that are trying to put them out of work. So the environmentalists are a small but very vocal group in the 8th District of Minnesota. But the miners, as a matter of fact, we just had an interesting confrontation between both of them. The environmentalists were going to do a canoe paddle all the way from northern Minnesota down to St. Paul to deliver the governor a petition. Well, they got met at the banks with a bunch of miners that showed them that they were not exactly happy with environmentalists blocking, and that's what this is. They're truly trying to block having any type of mining up in the 8th District. I look at the iron ore capabilities of taconite mining and the potential of precious metal mining as strategic assets, because 80% of the steel comes from the 8th District of Minnesota. Precious metals are the precious metals that we use in our weaponry, we use in our computers, in our cell phones, in our cameras. These are precious metals we have to have. Do we want to employ Americans doing it, more environmentally friendly than any place else in the world? Or do we want to keep on importing it and having a dependency on other countries?
Congressman, when a newly elected congressman runs for re-election the first time, as you are this year, that's traditionally when the other party will go all out to try to knock him off.
And they have.
And are you seeing that this year? Are the
Yeah.
Democrats making a major effort to because they thought they owned that seat?
They did. And again, the 8th District, the people of the 8th District, are the Democrats in the 8th District. The majority of them are conservative Democrats. The way I coin it is they believe in God, guns, and babies. And they're conservative Democrats. They're JFK Democrats. They're Reagan Democrats. They're very different than the liberal Democrats out of Washington, D.C., and dare I say even the Twin Cities area. In the last 3 weeks alone, we have had over $1 million thrown at us from outside parties. It is a dogfight. It's going to be the last campaign was a ground war. This is going to be a ground and air war.
When you say $1 million, that's TV advertising?
TV advertising alone in just the last 3 weeks, and we still have 40 days to the election.
And that's not money that's coming from, local Democrats in Duluth and Ely and places like that. That's flowing in from the liberal interest groups around the country.
Right. Ask Me just put up an ad today. I just did a huge ad buy. We're having a lot of outside groups that have thrown money in against us. We have friends too that are on our side, but it seems like we're being a little outnumbered right now.
How's the race going so far?
Actually, very well. We're pretty confident in the race. It's going to be tight, but there's been some outside polling that we have heard about that we've done well in.
We had lunch just a little while ago, Congressman, and you mentioned kind of a fun story with a bunch of 18-wheelers. But that's another example of trying to get practical things done so that industry can operate in your district and not just be hamstrung by the Obama administration and the liberals.
All these truckers and loggers that supported us here today probably supported someone else in the previous election. Now, what we've done in this, since I've been in Congress, we initiated a bill through the transportation infrastructure, which I'm on, to allow for higher truck weights to be able to go on our nation's highways. The highways infrastructure system was built for the reason of transporting heavy trucks, military trucks, rapidly if need be. That's why we have the initiation of the highway system. These trucks these 18-wheelers with these logging trucks have to go through downtown Duluth, brick cobbled streets, in front of schools, in front of churches, because
they're too big to go on Highway 35.
Because they're too big to go on highway, which makes absolutely no sense. The federal government is impeding them from being able to go on these highways, when it should be the states that should be allowing these trucks to go on these highways. If there's the states should be saying, okay, this bridge isn't safe, but it's the states that should be deciding these issues, not the cookie cutter approach out of Washington, D.C.
Congressman Chip Cravaack, thank you so much for being with us on Powerline.
Great being here. Thank you.
One more thing, Chip, before I let you go. If our readers want to contribute to your campaign, where should they go?
The best place to go is votechip.org. That's VOTECHIP.org. If you click on there, you'll be able to see what we're doing. And if we'd like to support us, we'd love to have you.
Thank you very much, Congressman.
Take care. Thank you.